The Team Never Quit podcast is sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. Navy Federal Credit Union likes to reward their members for using your credit cards. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. My name's Andrew. How's everybody doing out there? We hope you guys are doing good. So glad you guys are coming out every single week to listen to the show. How's it going, guys? Staying busy, bro? Very busy, I bet.
Yes.
Okay, we've got a Patreon question today. Last week was the first day of fall, even though it doesn't feel like it in Texas. We got like 2 days of a little bit of it.
We only have 2 seasons. We don't have, anyway.
Yeah. But question of the day, candy corn or candy canes?
Candy canes.
Do you like candy corn at all?
No.
Niels, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to go with the candy canes. My wife's a big Christmas head, and so Christmas starts probably in about June in our house. So, yeah, I'm going to go candy canes.
As it should.
Yeah.
Not a candy corn guy.
When I was a kid, I thought candy corn was great, and as I've gotten older, I've kind of realized it's garbage. It's not great at all.
Dude, looks cool sitting on a...
It looks pretty in the jar.
In a bowl or something.
Well, thank you guys so much for the Patreon question. If you want to ask your question, join us at patreon.com/teamneverquit. You can get access to exclusive content, some really cool swag, even some ad-free episodes. Make sure you guys check that out. We've got a great guest in store today. Niels Jorgensen is a former New York City firefighter of 21 years, a 9/11 survivor, as well as the host of the 20 for 20 podcast, a show highlighting 20 heroic stories about 9/11 for the 20th anniversary of the tragedy. Welcome to the show, Niels.
Well, thank you, sir. And thank you, Marcus, for having me. It's really an honor to be here. Appreciate it.
Oh, so obviously it's not going to be hard to pick up my man's accent. From one of arguably the most patriotic cities. That's what I love about people from Jersey and New York. It's a thing across the country. It's like, when I talk, I'm from Texas.
Yep.
When people from New York talk, they're from New York or Jersey or Atlanta. Unfortunately, some states, they don't have the luxury of having their own dialect or their own accents.
That's true. I don't ever feel like I sound Texan, but pretty sure it's there somewhere.
But you got to appreciate the humor because Niels lives in Tennessee.
That's right. Well, I'm now a damn Yankee, and my wife's teasing me because I've been toning down my New Yorkness so I could fit in a little here out in the hills. But it's funny when I flash back 35 years ago to Army basic training. I was down in Alabama, and there was 5 of us from New York City, and 195 guys from across the rest of the country. And they used to make the New York guys sit down, and they would give us like 25 cents a word. They'd like say coffee, say ball. We would really pour it on and they would just crack up laughing. So accents are very, very interesting. I grew up with an Irish mother who's off the boat. She still has her Irish brogue at 74 years old. So I'm a big fan of accents. But appreciate it, guys.
Oh, yeah. No, that's the best part about New York. They're proud of their accents. Because there's a difference between New York and New Jersey, too. I mean, I don't know if people know that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Northern New Jersey, Southern New Jersey, even differences. It's funny. 25, 50 miles changes the dialect a little bit. It's very interesting, actually.
And now... I can only imagine when people in that town you live in Tennessee, when you start talking, they just got to look up from what they're doing.
Well, I'm still learning to say y'all and not you guys, but there's some good folks here, and that's part of the reason I moved here for a quiet country life. When you have, I guess, a bunch of significant emotional events, right? Not to sound weak, whatever, but after a while, you just get saturated. And sometimes being in a quiet place is best for the mind and the soul. So I found a beautiful little spot here. It reminds me of where my mom's from in Ireland. And I spent my childhood every summer when I was a little boy at my grandma's farm in Ireland. And I feel like I've come back full circle now at 53. And I'm living out that farm dream that I always had. So I'm blessed by God to get that chance and really enjoying every minute of it. I miss the good of New York and the great people of New York that I love up there. but it's not the city I was born in, unfortunately. Politics aside, it's just being mismanaged, and it's sad. It's sad. I was attacked. I work as a stagehand now in the TV and filming union since I retired from the fire department, and I was coming off the subway about 2 years ago, just before all this stuff kicked off with the virus. And I proudly wear an American flag hat that I'm wearing right now. Being a veteran and just loving this country as a first generation American. And 4 young men attacked me, somewhat race based, and they just didn't like my hat, and they were cussing me out and letting me know. And one guy was just jumping up and down in front of me, throwing punches toward my nose, but not landing them. And another guy was filming it. And this went on for a few minutes, and it just kept getting more and more agitated. And, being a former cop, I spent my first 2 years as a New York City police officer, and then 21 and a half in fire. But I figured a cop car come by in a minute, and they must have been out in a call. So things just kept getting more heated. So I finally got up in this young man's face, and I started screaming at him. And I said, all right, let's go. You're right. I'm this, and blap, blap. And whatever he kept saying I was, I said, you're right. And I just work 18 hours, and I need to go home and sleep for 2 so I can go back for 18 more. But whatever it is I did to mess up your life and piss you off, let's get it done. And his friend realized I must have been crazy or a cop or something. And he grabbed him and said, oh, we just filmed people to get them to beg us for mercy and make us look good so we can have bones and street cred. And I just shook my head, walked away. And I was like, I prayed for these young guys because this is, man, they're 19 and they're lost and they're going nowhere. And I got in the car, and it was, I guess at that point, 2 in the morning, whatever. And my wife could hear my voice, the stress and the panic. And she goes, you okay? I said, yeah, I was almost not. And I said, we were just down in Nashville and, Central Tennessee doing the tourist thing. I said, you like it there? And she said, oh, I love it. I said, good, get used to it. We're going. And came down here, bought some land. I'm trying to build a house. And I hate retreating. I hate ever running away. But I realized that it was time late in life now to regroup and come somewhere a little quieter and come where there's folks, not to say there's not great people in New York and New Jersey, but more folks that I can relate to down here. There's less of that division and anger and politics. It's God family country down here, which used to inhabit most of the United States. I know it still exists in Texas. And Tennessee and a lot of states in the Midwest and Upper West, but it just seems like some of the states where the big cities are, there's just this I don't know, like this Twilight Zone kind of world where what used to be important and what used to really matter is now just out the window and everything's upside down. So things make sense for me here, and I think I want to spend the rest of my life here. To be honest with you, Marcus, it's a peaceful place, real peaceful place.
It is God's country.
Yes, sir.
We covered kind of high level your background, but let's give the listeners a little deeper dive on where you came from, and just walk us through your career, if you will, and then what you're doing now, because what you're doing now is, it'll touch everybody's heart.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Marcus, and you might have to rope me in because I'm Irish and we like to talk a lot. So if I veer way off the target, if I veer way off the target, feel free to pull me back in. I'm a proud New York born and raised boy. My dad is a New York native. His father was from Denmark. His mom, her parents were from Ireland, and she was orphaned quite young. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my dad decided to bring us out to the country at the time, which was Staten Island, and pretty much was raised there. Spent a year of my teenage years in Ireland because my dad was a New York City firefighter, finished up in the Air Force as a crash rescue firefighter, and then went on to New York City for 34 years. He was fighting a terminal cancer at 38 years old, and they asked him to be a test pilot for a new radical cancer drug in 1978. And this man went to work. They pulled him off the truck, put him in an office, and he got 4.5 years of chemo, and he went to work every time. He would be on it. Actually, he'd go to work, come back, get his treatment, be violently ill for a few days. And once he was able to get up and about, he'd go back to work. So after he got his time, his base pension time, my mom thought maybe he wouldn't live. So she decided we should move to Ireland, and her safety net was over there. She's from a huge family. And we spent about 10, 11 months. And my dad said, nope, this isn't America. I'm sorry. I'm American. My kids are American. We're going back home. And I love Ireland. I love my family there, but it's not America. So when I got back here, my God, I was kissing the tarmac at Kennedy Airport. And moved on through high school, took the police test, the fire test. I knew I wanted to be like my daddy. I was in that firehouse at 5 years old, and I'm looking around with these giants with mustaches, and they're all laughing and joking, and they're loving life. And I'm saying, man, I want to be like that. I want to go to work and be happy. And that was my pursuit. And failed out of college, joined the Army Reserves, then switched over to Army National Guard, did 8 years, no combat. Initially military police, then cross-trained as combat medic, assigned to an Armored Cav unit. Got on New York City Police after 2 years of hard labor at construction, non-union, working like a maniac for $6, $7, $8 an hour. Got on police department, and I loved it. I love being a cop, but I realized really quickly that people don't love cops. And the guy in the rookie class just before me, he had a bucket of cement dropped on the back of his head and sheared the back of his skull off. And the cruel irony is he's still alive 34 years later in a rehab institute, getting cleaned and fed and washed. And the press seems to forget him. They don't talk about guys like that. Did almost 2 years NYPD, loved it. I was in the middle of the crack wars in the hood, but I liked walking the old ladies to the market and shooting hoops with the young kids, because I would try to make a difference in their lives and let them know that someone really gave a crap about them and that I was willing to die for them, for their safety. But in my heart, I wanted to be a fireman, follow my dad. One of the happiest days of my life, swearing in as we call it, a Pro B firefighter. And I learned horribly within 11 months. My best friend from the academy, Kevin Kane, former U.S. Army Airborne Ranger, finished his tour in the Army and became a priest, and decided priesthood wasn't for him. He's an Irish Catholic guy, and he wanted to follow his daddy and be a fireman. And 11 months into our tour of duty, he was burned to death in a fire. And I went to his wake and his funeral with our other best friend, Jimmy Young. And Jimmy Young burned to death in 1994. And all of a sudden I'm saying, man, things happen in threes. And I'm not embarrassed to say it. It shook me up a bit. It spooked me a bit. 1993, I was in a bad fire truck wreck, thrown, couldn't move my arms and my legs. I got rushed up to Trauma Center, Bellevue, and a heavy rescue just laid interference the whole way up over the Brooklyn Bridge, up the FDR Drive, just blowing cars out of the way, racing me there. And Father Michael Judge, our beautiful Catholic chaplain, he responded. He called my mom and my dad. And my father-in-law was also a FDNY firefighter. And my late, he's passed, and now my late beautiful Irish mother-in-law was just one of my dear friends. And my brother-in-law, and I said to Father Judge, it was a Sunday. I said, Father, I missed church. I didn't get there today. I was working morning of Sunday into the morning of Monday, 24-hour shift. I said, but I'll try to get to chapel here in the morning. And he smiled. He says, you know what, Niels? He says, you try to tell the good Lord what you're doing tomorrow, he's just going to laugh at you. So how about we get through tonight? So he put his hands on my head and we prayed, and I cried because I thought I was paralyzed. And they put me in the tube and I came out, and about 6 hours later, the doc come in and I started feeling tingling in my feet and my hands. And he said, look, I can't see what's wrong. He says, there's a bunch of swelling on the impact, but there's no break. You're probably going to be fine. It's just going to take a day. It's a stinger. It's swollen.
Let's take a second to thank our friends over at Navy Federal Credit Union for helping us put together such an incredible episode today. Navy Federal Credit Union likes to reward their members for using their credit cards. There is nothing more exciting than getting cash back from a credit card, being able to pay off some debt or buy something cool, maybe go on an awesome vacation, all with those cashback rewards. And now you can earn up to 1.75% cashback on all purchases with the Cash Rewards card when you sign up for direct deposit. When you use the Navy Federal mobile app, you can redeem your rewards as soon as you earn them. There's no annual balance transfer or foreign transaction fees. Plus, the most exciting thing, rewards never expire. Learn more at NavyFederal.org, insured by NCUA.
Sure enough, I got out of there 4 days later and went back to duty in a couple weeks after that. And, you know, thinking my career was over, and man, it was another rebirth. It just, it started all over again. But 5 years later, I was in another incident. I was in a collapse, and I went in for another CAT scan. And the doc says, "Hey, the hell are you doing on a job, man? What are you doing walking around, working out, you know, whatever?" I said, "What do you mean, sir?" He says, "You've got a full fracture of cervical 7 in your column." He said, "But it's all filled in with arthritis." And you know, he goes, Did you get a real bad crushing injury?" I said, "Well, I was in a wreck, but they told me there was nothing." And I said, "Doc, you have faith?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Well, Father Michael Judge put his hands on me," and he went, "Okay, yeah, we're good. Go back to work." And so Father Judge was my bud. I went to the first bombing in 1993 after they tried to take it down the first time. I was with this beautiful soul of a man named Hank Miller. He was the senior man in the crew. And much like the military, they marry you up to a senior guy to keep you under their wing so you don't get hurt. You don't wander off. You don't do too much without knowing too much. And he looked around, and it was the aftermath. And he said, "Hey, kid, you know, they did it wrong." He said, "They blew it up here in the middle and it held up." He says, "But next time they're going to come back and they're going to do it in a corner." And he said, they'll drop it to Canal Street, which is a half mile up the street. And, you know, I left that day thinking, wow, you know, this is kind of deep what he's saying. And in 1994, they had a manual with a target on the World Trade Center that said, "Not a matter of if, matter of when, be ready." And it was for our high-rise training operations. Well, one of the cruel ironies on the morning of 2001, September 11th, Hank Miller was a senior man again. And the young man under his charge that morning was this beautiful young guy, Dennis Oberg Jr. And his father, Dennis Oberg Sr., is one of the men who, aside from my dad, who did a damn good job, one of the men who taught me to be a man and a fireman. And Dennis Sr.'s beautiful young son was killed with Henry Miller. Henry Miller prophesied he knew they were coming back. He just knew it. And 50 yards from them was my childhood best friend, John Sharp. And John and I we were buds, man. John was a tough guy with a soft edge. And he was on shift. I was off shift that morning. I was working my moonlight, driving an oil truck. And I got home 4 days after everything was going on. And my wife said, "Well, we got some good news. I'm having a baby," which was our third. And I said, "Oh my God, that's a gift from God." I said, "But John's wife's having his third baby too, but he's dead. He'll never see him." And the kids were born 3 days apart, May of 2002. And there's a lot of guilt with that. I love my beautiful little Catherine. She's just a gift from God. I call her my 9/11 miracle, because if I didn't get home, I never would have seen her. And now she's just this beautiful, intelligent young woman, 19 years old. And my friend's son, John Jr., is, you know, good young man, but never even met his daddy. And it's kind of upsetting, but I was blessed that morning. I was off duty. I raced in for my side job, for my moonlight. And much like the military, you know, you have orders and chains of command, and you just can't kind of run into battles because no one will know you're there. And if you get hurt or lost or captured or whatever, no one's looking for you here. So the city gave a recall order, which means all police, fire, EMS personnel were obligated to go to their command immediately, that we were under a terrorist attack. I'd seen the first plane across the harbor, the burning tower, and I said, it's probably a Learjet. It's probably some rich dude who wanted a picture, and the pilot got too close and he veered into the building. And, you know, I know it sounds like another day in New York, but, you know, they didn't want us racing in. You know, the on-duty platoon is a couple thousand guys, so they got enough to handle it. But all of a sudden, that second plane hit, and I knew we were under attack. So I got to my command. I called into higher command, and they said 114, my truck that morning with Dennis Oberg Sr. at the command of it. They already left on a dispatch. They were gone. They were on the way to Manhattan. We were in Brooklyn, which is probably about 8-9 miles away, still part of the city. And they had given out an equivalent initially of a 10th alarm assignment, which meant probably about 100 fire trucks minimal, 150 fire trucks, and 500 personnel. So anyway, we got in, and the chief said, okay, when you get 12 guys, have whoever takes over command check in on the radio, take a radio, get whatever gear you can, commandeer a city bus, and get to Manhattan. So there was threats of the battery tunnel being blown up on a secondary device. And some young firefighter named Stephen Siller, who had 5 children, he raced with his pickup to the mouth of the tunnel, and he was stopping going in. And so he took his fire gear, his coat, his helmet, his everything he had, about 60 pounds of gear. He ran 2.5 miles through the tunnel to meet up with his company. Stephen didn't make it home either. And his brother is the gentleman, Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which takes care of all of our Gold Star families and first responder families that have lost their loved ones to their jobs, and to the horribly wounded, military combat and first responder horribly injured. They all get homes thanks to the memory of Stephen and his beautiful brother, Frank. So we proceeded. City bus. This gentleman, John, he wouldn't give us the bus. He said he had to stay with it. He was a city bus driver. We didn't want him risking his life, but he was brave. He said, I'm sorry, I have to do it. And as we got to the Brooklyn Bridge, the second tower came down, and we were kind of overcome with guilt because now we were late for the battle, right? We missed it, and our guys got shot up. And that was just some heavy shit because I felt like I failed. My man, my buddy, my John, my best buddy, all these guys that just taught me about life, about being a man, being a good man, and they were all gone. And we got over there, and it was just hell. It was a scene from war. And I was only a weekend warrior for 8 years, and I had no combat. We were just about to go over in the first Iraqi war, and we got pulled back. So I never did see that type of arena. But when we got off the bus over the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was just this huge pile of, it looked like the end of the world, like these zombie apocalypse movies that they seem to have on every week now. And then there was fighter jets just screaming overhead. And I'm saying, wow, we're at war. And there was reports that other planes were going to come in, and there were secondary devices planted, and we were to be on high alert for anything that just looked out of the ordinary. And there was not enough equipment. We weren't prepared. The city didn't learn their lesson after 1993. And we didn't have spare fire trucks. We didn't have spare Scott mask tools. It would be like saying, send in a couple thousand extra troops to a battle, but we can't give you a weapon. So we did our best. And that first night, we were all doing search grids, just certain areas, because we couldn't commit everybody to one specific pile. And I was off to the side with this older fireman from my father's old truck, 172. And we were about 100, 200 yards away from the main focus at the time was the 2 police officers from the Port Authority police force that were still trapped. From what I believe, they were the last 2 human beings taken out of there alive. And we went off to the side, and he said, hey, brother, what do you hear? And I said, well, I hear it sounds like sand coming down a dune. And that was all the just pulverized cement, just tapering down every couple of minutes. And I heard hissing from the gas lines and the water pipes. And I said, well, I hear the gas lines. He goes, no, but what else do you hear? And I said, nothing. And all of a sudden he pointed over, and there was a lady's high heel shoe. And 2 foot away was a lady's pocketbook. And he said, where are they? And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, where are the people attached to these items? And I didn't have an answer. And he said, brother, they're all pulverized. Look what it did to the building. You think we're going to find anybody? And, Marcus, he was right. I mean, there was only 200, I believe, and 90 human beings fully intact that were actually retrieved from that disaster, that place of evil. And half of those souls of the 2,977 souls have not even been identified by their DNA because just wasn't enough of it to identify. They just did identify 2 more souls 2 weeks ago, 2 days before 9/11, because thankfully science is improving and DNA technology is improving. So 20 years after this horrific attack on us, these 2 families just were able to get closure. So about 4 or 5 in the morning, my platoon commander at the time, Lieutenant Brian Gorman, we were just done. And at a point in time when you're just physically shot, you're useless actually to the mission. We couldn't breathe, we couldn't see, we couldn't stand half the time. We were just so messed up. And he said, guys, we're going to regroup. We need to go back. We need to get some medical help. We need supplies. We'll come back in a few hours, but we need to go. So we did. And we took a bus back through that tunnel. And I didn't even know at that time that Stephen had run through it 18 hours earlier. And we got our medical aid. And as we were walking up the hill from where the bus dropped us off to the firehouse, one of the older guys, Dan, he says, we're all dead. And I said, no, Dan, we made it, man. I says, the brothers are gone.
I've got to take a second to interrupt this amazing story because we can't do this show without our supporters. Today's program is sponsored by Athletic Greens, the health and wellness company that makes comprehensive daily nutrition really simple. There's a lot of stresses in life that make it difficult to maintain effective nutritional habits. You're not getting the nutrients you need, and that's whether you're just dealing with a busy schedule, poor sleep. Maybe you're not getting to the gym when you're supposed to, work stress. Maybe you're eating the wrong kind of foods. It's leaving us deficient in those key nutritional areas. But AG1 by Athletic Greens is the category leading superfood product. It is bringing the comprehensive and convenient daily nutrition to everybody. What I like the most is I don't have to deal with that cluttered cabinet full of medicines that I have no idea if they're working, if they're helpful. I can take 1 scoop of AG1 and it's going to contain 75 vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, a multimineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more in this one convenient daily serving, which means you don't have to deal with a bunch of schedules and times and pills and supplements. You can count on this one green to get everything you need. The special blend of high-quality, bioavailable ingredients and a scoop of AG1 work together to fill the nutritional gaps in your diet, support energy and focus, aid with gut health and digestion, and it will support that healthy immune system we all need, effectively replacing multiple products or pills with one healthy, delicious drink. It is lifestyle friendly. So if you're doing keto, if you're paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, it contains less than 1 gram of added sugar, no GMOs, no tasty chemicals or artificial anything, while keeping it tasting good. If you want to fill those nutritional gaps in your diet, then you certainly should try AG1 to make it easy. Athletic Greens is going to even hook you guys up with an immune-supporting free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. If you visit athleticgreens.com/TNQ today, again, simply visit athleticgreens.com/TNQ. Take control of your health and give AG1 a try. They're an amazing supporter of the show and they have an incredible product. Let's get back to our story with Niels.
I said, well, we need to find them and bring them home to bury them, but we made it. He says, no, you don't get it, man. He says, do you feel like you just swallowed a box of razor blades? And I said, yes, sir. I said, I can't breathe. I said, he goes, we've been poisoned. We're all going to die. Well, out of that crew of 20 that morning, 10 of us have cancer. One of my buddies, Mike, has had 3 bouts of bladder cancer and 2 rare leukemias. Another Mike. We have a lot of Mikes in the fire department. And my other Mike, he's had 2 cancers. He had thyroid, and then he had a huge tumor wrapped around his aorta, cancerous tumor. And we're all coming down with wacky stuff. 2011. I'll fast forward a little bit. I want to go back to these other guys because it isn't about me. So we went back and we just did what we could. And after about 4 or 5 days, the fire ground and the police commander just said, guys, look, just as now recovery, there's no more viable souls being taken out of here. They're all gone. And it was strange because on the 2nd or 3rd day, this gentleman, one of the federal dogs, I don't know if I think he was a cadaver dog. And he got a hit. And this man told us, he said, we need you to dig this little grave. And we dug a box that was about 3 foot wide by 5 foot deep, 3 by 5 by about 3-4 foot deep. But it took about 5-6 hours because it was all covered in jagged rebar and key decking and steel, and then there was dust and concrete. And so it wasn't like you just dug a hole and quickly got to the bottom. So after this 5 hours of just digging like maniacs, cutting with saws and torches and pulling stuff by hand, the dog got a hit again, and he says, "You got it." And we looked down, and there was just this little thing of human remains that you could not even identify as human. And I said, "Sir, are you fucking with us?" And he said, "Excuse me." I said, "Sir, what are you talking about? That is not a human being." He took my shoulder. He said, "Sir, I need to explain something to you. I'm in a different type of business." He said, "You all are used to finding full bodies intact, crushed in a car or burned up in a fire or whatever it is. You know, we pull them out of the river or the bay." He goes, "You're not going to find bodies here. Please take this and put it in a hazmat bag and tag it where we are, because trust me, someone is going to identify their loved one from this." And at first, I didn't really see the significance of that. But then when I saw the suffering of the families that were so desperately just looking to find something of their loved one, I felt like I completed my mission that day. And strange enough, a few months later, this beautiful young man named Fitzroy Haynes Jr. Fitzy, his dad was a Jamaican immigrant who joined the United States Marine Corps. And Fitzy followed his daddy. And the morning of 9/11, it was Fitzy's first shift on the department out of training school. And he was assigned to South Street Seaport Firehouse, Tower Ladder 15, Engine 4. And an older gentleman named Tom Kelly. The call came in at about 10 to 9. Your shift officially starts at 9, but the courtesy is you always give a guy a relief and you say, hey, Marcus, you go home, man. I got this. And Tom took Fitzy and he physically put him in an office and said, "You do not move. You do not go anywhere. You man the radio and you man the phone. You're not going to this." Well, Tom Kelly is on audio with Lieutenant Joseph Levy from Tower Ladder 15. And it was just like another day at the races. They were telling command what they had. They're on the 78th floor. There's multiple victims. There's multiple dead victims. We need 5 truck companies for search to break down doors into areas where people are trapped. And we need 5 engine companies to operate hose lines. We think we can get a handle on this. We just need the manpower. And Chief Palmer from Battalion 7, I believe it was, he gave him the order. "Okay, 10-4, I hear your order. I'm going to convey it," because we had bad radios at the time because that wasn't a priority for the city. You know, firemen's radios didn't really matter so much, so they hardly worked. And he got the order off that they needed the help. And 5 minutes later, there was radio silence because the building collapsed and they were in it. And Fitzroy sat and listened to that radio and he realized, oh my God, this man just threw me off the truck and he's dead and I'm sitting here. What do I do? Well, 3-4 months later, Fitzy was on a search crew and he found a little sneaker. And he thought someone was messing with us because there was no children reported in the tower that morning. But there was a 3-year-old child on the plane with her mom. And she's actually related to a friend of mine. They were from Ireland. And my buddy grew up just near my mom. And he was waiting for them to come back from California to stay at their house. And the strange irony with that is Fitzy saw the shoe and he said to the lieutenant, "Hey, boss, I think there's something in the shoe, but why would there be a child's shoe? They must be messing with us." And the boss said, "Fitz, hold on." Dog came over, human remains, they bagged it. It turned out it was that little child's shoe. And Fitzy, he died of a heart attack in 2011 because of the poisons we breathed in. And his young heart gave out at 40 years old. So there's just so many connections and interconnections of just these really beautiful, great guys that just gave everything. And then the cancers, they started really picking up in 04, 05. 2006, the first official death was finally recognized, Detective James Adroga. He was dying of advanced lung disease. There was no hope. And James spent basically 6 straight months at the landfill, at the old garbage dump, where they sent the remains of the debris, which basically intermixed with that was human beings. And James was there to try to painfully find all the human remains and identify them. Well, from his tour of duty there, he basically got this very rare and advanced lung disease, and it was killing him. So his doctor told him to grind up his pain pills and snort them or drink them or eat them for immediate pain relief. So he did just that. He followed that order. He died a week later, and the New York City medical examiner, under the orders of the mayor at the time, said, we found talcum, which is the pill liners, and when you grind those up, they get stuck in the lung lining. So he said, this man did not die a hero. He died of an opiate overdose. No benefits for his family. So Jimmy's father, Joseph Shadroga, who was a retired police chief, went wild when he heard this mayor disgustingly say his son was not a hero. And he married up with a gentleman named John Feel from the Feel Good Foundation. And John is an old soldier, and he was a construction and demolition expert who was brought in to help dismantle what was left of the debris. And a week into the operation, he had 8,000 pounds of steel crush his foot and rip half of it off, and ended up for 6 months in the hospital with sepsis. And when he got out, nobody wanted to pay the bill, because that's what started happening. The games began. So all the politicians that lined up on the West Side Highway for a mile south and a mile north, and with all the folks, and 9/12 was actually a beautiful day in America because we were unified and people flew the flag. And they didn't look at faces and facades. They looked in at souls, right? They weren't doing all this bullshit that we're hung up on now, judging each other and staring at. They looked into each other's souls and said, I'm American, you're American, and we need to support each other. Well, these politicians, they were so fast to get that selfie and the never forget hashtag, and they wanted to be seen with a rescuer because it looked good at the time. And they do the same thing to the military. Well, all of a sudden, 2, 3, 4 years later, when guys start dropping like flies, they're nowhere to be found. So John Feel ends up with $600,000 in medical bills. And he marries up with Chief Zadroga, who wanted to salvage the name of his hero son. And they went on a mission to Washington. And they formed John Feel's Army. And these two other beautiful souls, firefighter Ray Pfeiffer and New York City Police Detective Luis Alvarez. Well, they were both terminally ill with cancer in wheelchairs on oxygen, but they would go down there repeatedly to shame these politicians who would hide. I was there with them a few times, who would run and hide in closets and cloakrooms like cowards because they didn't sign on to the legislation we were trying to get passed to just pay our medical bills. That's all we were asking. And John Feel would chase them down. And it was actually comical to see these alleged supposed leaders cowering in a closet, hiding from this man on a mission. And you know, it's funny, my Irish grandma, Nora, God rest her, she used to always say, those politicians, they're all like dirty diapers. They're full of shit and they stink. You know, Marcus, I learned it firsthand. Grandma Nora was so right. They were such phony cowards. We had one congressman who was a former police officer out west, California, who prided himself on saying he was a cop from a busy ghetto area, and he was there to help save the people. This guy wouldn't even sign on to the legislation because he said it didn't confront his district. But we reminded him that 10 of his officers from LA County were also dying of 9/11 related illnesses because they came by plane, by bus, by RV and van to help us. So one of the cops who was dying got up out of his wheelchair and said, sir, cut the politics and the bullshit and do the right thing and sign on to this thing now. We're dead men walking and we don't want to strap our families with millions of dollars in bills. So by the grace of God, John Feel and the actor Jon Stewart got on later on in time, and he really shamed them in a congressional hearing. We now have coverage. Our bills are paid. It makes me so blessed and thankful because I'm one of those guys.
We'll get right back to Niels' story, but before that, we've got to thank our generous sponsors over at Human. It is hard to make sure you're getting all the nutrients you need throughout your day, especially if you keep a busy schedule, work obligations, family, friends, and hobbies. All of these things can get in the way of the essential self-care that makes you the best parent, spouse, friend, and employee you can be. There's only a few things that I can say are a part of my daily habit, and Super Beets Heart Chews are definitely a part of that routine. And that is because when you have bad things laying around, things like candy, things like bad snacks, you tend to overindulge in those things. And if you replace it with something good like Super Beets Heart Chews, it combines non-GMO beets with a special ingredient, grapeseed extract, which is what makes it unique. And I love it. No joke, tastes like candy. Just the other day, my 2-year-old niece walked over to the house, opened the pantry, said, "Hey, can I have one of those Super Beets candies?" It tastes like candy, but it's not. Grapeseed extract has been the focus of scientific research for years due to its high concentration of antioxidants, which supports cardiovascular health and overall wellness. You can't find this quality of grapeseed extract in just any product. This grapeseed extract is clinically studied, quality tested, traceable to the source, scientifically shown to support blood flow and healthy blood pressure, and just 2 delicious chews a day gives the blood pressure support you need and the energy you want. I love it because it's a great replacement for candy. I tend to get a sweet tooth. I like that it kind of tastes like a sweet snack. Do what I did. Support your heart health with delicious Super Beets Heart Chews. Get your Super Beets Heart Chews today at superbeets.com/TNQ. And when you buy 2 bags, they'll throw in the third for free. That's superbeets.com/TNQ. superbeets.com/TNQ. Let's get back to the story.
In 2011, I came down with an incurable leukemia. It's technically incurable on the books. And the fire department picked up something was wrong. I was telling them for 2 years, I'm not right. And in 2010, they gave me a medical. But I was temporarily sent, as they call it, to bad lieutenant camp because I had a moment with an upper level supervisor who in the end apologized and said he was wrong. His ego got in the way, but he's the boss. So I got sent to bad lieutenant camp, which means you go all over the city for 6 months. And I know you know the fellas up in Harlem, 43 and 53, where Mike Riley was well loved.
Yes, sir.
And I passed through everywhere because I was in trouble. But it was okay because I got to see guys I hadn't seen in years. It was great. It was like a reunion tour, except for one thing. I had a medical during that time. And being the not so efficient bureaucracy that they sometimes can be, FDNY Medical sent my results, but they never got to me. And I had cancer. So a year later, they picked up on it again, and now it was worse. So they pulled me off the truck and said, "You can bleed to death immediately. You have no platelets." I said, "Okay, then I want treatment. Take me in today." It was a Friday. But the dirty, rotten secret is a lot of the doctors, they like to go out to the Hamptons to the beach on Fridays in the summer, get ahead of the traffic. "Yeah, don't worry about it. Come in Monday." So I came in Monday, and my spleen was about the size of a Rollins football. And I could barely I was a mess. And I look at this one doctor who had the duty, and he says, "Yeah, what are you doing here?" Just like that, because a lot of times in the summer, guys, they want a couple extra days to be with their family. He goes, "Yeah, listen, I'm not feeling it today, or whatever. I got diarrhea, or I got whatever." So I said, "Well, sir," I said, "I'm here because you sent me here." I said, "This is my blood work. They pulled me from the truck. Can you give me an exam?" And he said, whoa, Lieutenant, you're mistaking me for your doctor. "Who's your doctor?" And I said, "Dr. So-and-so, who happened to also be in the FDNY, but she's my doctor on the outside." He goes, "You go see her when you get a chance, but tomorrow you ride a desk because you're on light duty." Because now what they do is to threaten you to go back so they don't have to replace you on overtime. They'll throw you on a desk to speed up your healing, right? I said, "Sir," I lifted up my shirt and it looked like ET wanted to pop out. I said, "Could you please tell me what's wrong? Look at my spleen. I have no platelets." And he tilts his 2 fingers back, his thumb and his pinky, as if I was drinking. And he goes, "Whoa, Lieutenant, busy summer?" And I went, "Excuse me, sir." I said, "Are you judging me? Is that a stereotypical comment because I'm Irish and Danish and you're assuming I like to drink?" I said, "I just spoke to a medical personnel in my family, and they said this is indicative of a blood cancer." And he went, "Oh, we got another WebMD." I went off on this guy, and I said, "You know what, you piece of shit? You shouldn't even be a doctor." The XO came running in, another doctor, asking me what was wrong. And I said to the doctor, "Ma'am, can you look at this?" And she went, "Ooh, no platelets. Come on inside." And she kind of gave him the wink, like, "You're an asshole. I'll take this." So she said, "Go get a sonogram. Go call your doctor. You need treatment." I said, "Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you caring." Well, I did. I went to that doctor, and she said to me right away, "Well, how's the drinking?" I said, "Well, ma'am, what does that mean?" Because, Marcus, unfortunately, a lot of our guys after the horrors of 9/11 and then watching their friends years later just die one a week. Yeah, we did some drinking, right? And some of us went for some counseling to say, "Hey, I'm having a hard time. I lost all the guys I love, and I'm still here. Can you tell me why?" So if you went for counseling, they automatically said you have PTSD. So with that, she says, just go for a sonogram, go for this test, that test, that test. So for 3 weeks, I'm trying to track her down. She finally says, okay, just come in next week and we'll figure this out. So now it's almost a month later and I show up and I was told she left for the day at 12 o'clock. And I said, well, how's that possible? I have an appointment at 1. So I call her XL, her driver, and they're in a restaurant. And I hear the glasses clanking and I says, Tom, I got a big problem. I think I'm dying and the doc didn't show up. Can you ask her to come back? And he went, oh shit, today's your appointment? Yeah, today. Well, 3 hours later, waiting for her, I pass out, I go down. And the charge physician who had a heart and some empathy, he coded me and he called 911 and he said to him, send paramedics, advanced life support, not the regular EMS, not the routine, just transport to the hospital. This guy, his spleen's going to rupture. He's going out. His blood pressure is 240 over 140. So in struts this doctor, pissed off that she had to come back and do her job. And she gets into a fight with me and the paramedic over what's wrong with me. So he explained to her, well, his spleen's about to rupture. She said, oh, that's nothing but drinking. And he said, well, can you explain the blood pressure of 240 over 140?
We've got to take a second to thank our sponsors over at Mountain Tough Fitness Lab. Thank you guys so much for helping us put together this incredible episode today. Mountain Tough has created the most functional fitness programs ever designed, all delivered to your phone. Created by veteran Navy SEALs and Army Rangers, they make it convenient to go to the gym, do the prescribed workout, and get in the best shape physically and mentally of your life. And that is my favorite part of Mountain Tough, is their focus on mental toughness. Everything they do is grounded in one purpose: life transformation. You guys know that at Team Never Quit, everything we do, everything we talk about, all the people we interview, the one thing in common is mental toughness. If you're tired of going to the gym and not knowing what you're going to do, you have no idea what you're doing when you go in there, you look at the machines and you're just like, I'm going to just pump a few out. I have no idea what I'm doing here. You're not going to have to deal with that anymore, because there's a community of over 10,000 like-minded athletes that are going to hold you accountable. These programs are great for everyone. Those who want to hit the gym and heavy weights, those who like to work out at home, those of you guys that have no gear at all. There's guidance for beginners, intermediate, and elite athletes. So whatever your goals are, whatever you're trying to accomplish, it'll help you increase mental toughness. It's going to help you build muscle, improve endurance, anytime, anywhere from your mobile device. The right nudge from the right person at the right time can change your destiny. I know that I get stories all the time from people that listen to our show that say someone that talked on the podcast made a huge impact on their lives. Change their destiny, change their course. And that's what I'm going to do today. I am nudging you to start today, as I know the Mountain Tough programs and the Mountain Tough community, they're going to enable you to become the best version of yourself. And Mountain Tough, they like Team Never Quit, and they're going to take care of you guys. Mountain Tough is offering T&Q listeners 20% off all of their online training programs and their apparel with the code TNQ. That is 20% off site-wide, any program, any merch, with our code TNQ at MTNtough.com. mountaintough.com. That's MTNtough.com. Remember, when you support our sponsors, you're supporting our show. Thank you, guys.
Said his body is going into some sort of shock. Something's wrong. She said, oh, that's probably anxiety. He's got PTSD. That's what they all do. Well, he overrode her. This wonderful 6'7" tall African-American medic who I work calls with on the street. And when he first saw me, when he responded, he said, why? He was teasing me. I was red as a friggin' tomato. And he says, oh, man, 114. He goes, you're not one of them surfer dudes out in Rockaway Beach. I'm like, Doc, I'm too fat to fly the surfboard, bro. This is what's wrong. This is my paperwork. So that's why he overruled the doctor. He told me on the way to the hospital in the ambulance, I'm sorry, my brother, but you have cancer. I can't believe this doctor didn't pick up on this, but we're going to do what we can. And as you know, in the military, we call the medics Doc. And I says, Doc, thanks for fishing me out of there. Thanks for giving me a chance at least. So I got into the hospital. They did their thing, wanting to know why I wasn't there a month earlier. I said, because I trusted my doctors, which I shouldn't. When the team finally drilled into my head, took out the bone marrow, this and that, they said, look, you got here in time. You had about 48 hours to live. But we got the swelling subsided. What we need to do a rapid intervention. We're trying to find the drugs because it's so rare. You have the rarest leukemia that's known to medicine. There's 500 cases in all of North America a year. but you're the seventh 9/11 rescue in 6 months to get it. And 2 guys have already died during the treatment. This isn't good. I said, okay, what's my chances? They said, well, leukemia is like a car. It's not like an organ cancer, stage 1 through 4. It's like a car, and it drives to the edge of the cliff and it goes off. I said, where's my car? They said the front 2 wheels are dangling and the car's starting to tilt. I said, okay, then let's do this. So they had to hit me with 2.5 years worth of chemo in these massive bags in 7 days and burn out my bone marrow in the hopes that my seedling marrow could regenerate, because I wasn't a candidate for a transplant or any of that stuff. Thank God, since the 10 years since, they've improved the medical technology. But the second, my nurse, Mike Nunez, who was my savior, and this other lady from Trinidad, Altagracia, they were my angels on earth. And Mike said to me, he said, look, I have to put on a hazmat suit. This stuff is so caustic that if I get it on your skin or my skin or anything, it will burn through it. I said, then how the hell are you going to put this in my body? He said, well, it does its job that way. He says, it'll trust me, it'll work. You'll feel like you're burning to death, but you're not.
I mean, I've never heard anybody to just give the descriptive of burning to death on the inside, but don't worry, you'll be okay. Yeah.
And what happened was when he started the IV, it spilled onto the tube and the tube started to smoke. And I said, you're not putting that in me. He said, hold on, let me start it over. Let me start a new one. He said, listen to me. Those 3 beautiful kids that were just here praying with you and your wife, he says, if you want to see him again, take this. Because if you don't, you got about 2 days. I said, okay, let's go. And within a second, Marcus, it started. And it was like when you drink a whiskey and you feel that burn. And it started up my wrist, up my shoulder, across my shoulders, up my head, down my body. And within 30 seconds, I was writhing in pain. I saw my beautiful Irish mother-in-law that night. She had just passed 6 months before. Went to church every day. And she was smiling. And she said, and I said, Nan, I want to go home. Please tell God I'm done. I can't do it. I'm weak. I don't have it in me. And she said, no, my boyfriend. She called me her boyfriend. And she said, he's not ready. Just go back with that beautiful family. She says, but when he's ready, he'll call. And she faded away. And I fought for my life, Marcus. I figured after that, I want to live now. If Dan says it's good with God, it's good with God. Because if she's not in heaven, no one is. And I fought my battle and I got out. And a few months later, they told me, you're retired, you're out. You can't stay with cancer. I said, well, you let him work in office. But after 20 years now, you're a financial liability. And with the amount of guys getting sick, you also become, like basically they don't want you on their nickel anymore. When you're retired, you're not their problem. So I'm sure similar to you all in the military, they train you in everything except for how to retire. So I've been searching, I've been wandering for 10 years. God, please tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I got an opportunity from some kind folks in Iron Light Labs. They heard a podcast. I had reached out to a gentleman who gives millions and millions of dollars to cancer research. And I thanked him. There's a gentleman, David Koch, who's since passed away. And I said, sir, I want nothing. I just want to say thank you. You helped save my life. Your donations to research, my oncologist studied under those grants and he saved my life. Thank you. So someone did a podcast on it about being grateful, being thankful, the gift of a second chance. So these folks from Iron Light Labs said, hey, we want to do a tribute to the folks at 9/11 who've given back, some who have died, some who haven't. And we just want to tell the stories because we feel that it's being eradicated from American history. And, Marcus, sad enough, 26 states in the United States have no curriculum to teach 9/11. And many, many districts around the nation, it's actually deemed offensive. It cannot be taught. Now, I don't know how the hell 9/11 is offensive to anyone in America. It's offensive to my friends who died and their families. And if it's offensive to gentlemen like you and your brave warrior brothers who gave everything for this country, but how the hell is it offensive? Just beyond belief for me. So I know I sound fired up, and it's actually the opposite of what I'm trying to put out. I'm trying to put out some love and some kindness. I want to bring back the unity of 9/12 and say, folks, America is not perfect. It has its bumps, its bruises, its blemishes. But trust me, I've lived elsewhere. There is no better place. And in honesty, sometimes our history, maybe it's not perfect. Maybe there's some bad elements of it, but it's our history and it needs to be taught. So what we're trying to do is in a kind, gentle way, get these stories out there. We're trying to support Tunnel to Towers and get some awareness for them on their mission and just spread some good messages and good education. And the podcast is called 2420podcast.com. And so far, we've had some really good feedback. Folks say it's making sense. And it's one of the highest honors in my life to speak about my brave friends, because they were just truly the best that this country has to offer.
We're digesting all that. That was.
I'm sorry. I was rapid fire. And Marcus, it's funny because when you're in remission, it's an elusive beast. You don't know how much time you actually have. So I have this constant fear that I'm not going to have enough time. So I talk fast and I do things fast, and I have to stop myself and go, wait a minute. You're here.
No,
slow down.
No, we need.
And also, I realize
we need
the
guys
show's
like
only
you.
so long.
No. We need heroes like you to keep that our history alive and share the stories of those that fought so bravely inside our borders. We talk about our veterans and our first responders. Most people can't appreciate. You guys deploy out your front door every day. I say that as much as I can. So, I mean,
yeah,
you're our warriors out there, just right outside.
Well, they're my heroes. I'm not a hero. My friends were heroes. I'm just a guy who did his job, and I've been blessed with a pension, and I've been blessed with remission and a family. But Marcus, my heroes, the guys protecting me right now in Central Tennessee. They make $17 an hour, my sheriffs in my county. And they ride by themselves in a car. And I'm sure it's very similar where you are in Texas. Guys are on solo patrol, and then they pull up on 4, 5, 6 bad dudes, right? And more than anyone in this world what it's like to be outnumbered. And God bless you for your sacrifice and your bravery. And these poor guys are out there, and they didn't pay you guys nothing, right? This beautiful Marine who just passed away 2 weeks ago, saying she had her dream job holding an Afghani baby. She was an E1. What is she making? 22 grand, but she's working 90 hours a week. So she's good for $6 an hour. And she couldn't wait to go down to the recruiter and sign up, right? And it's the same thing with all these heroes that are turning out on a daily basis, strapping on bulletproof vests and fire helmets and military helmets and flak jackets, and they're making nothing. And they're still breaking down the doors to the recruiters to take those jobs. And the kicker is they're just not getting the respect that they used to. And it's so sad. I just saw a video last night of these 2 officers in Florida, and a guy runs up and smashes him in the head with a brick and tries to tear the other officer's eye out. And he bites it through his arm, literally through into the flesh. And he's charged with assault. So this one cop's probably going to lose his eye in his career. And this other guy's going to have brain damage. And this gentleman's going to get out of jail in 2 weeks. There's something wrong. And it has to change. If it doesn't, we're on a collision course with the empire just ending. Yeah. I mean, we have to stop rewarding the bad guys. And again, I'm not going to pull politics because it sets people off. But after a while, it's like if we reward our children for bad behavior, what are they going to learn? Oh, I guess it's good to be bad. But if we teach our children right, like our parents taught us, and teach them that there's ramifications and there's outfall, and if you don't take responsibility and accountability, you will pay the price with a shitty life. And it's funny, like what really upsets me is what is now deemed a man in America, right? So you got guys running around. No one wants to be a father anymore. Just be a baby daddy. Just have a baby and just take off and maybe catch up with him when he's 22 and successful. And how about being a father and a husband and a decent contributor to society instead of acting like a child? And yet those are the people we're glorifying in society. And it's troubling for an old guy like me, and I'm really hoping that our project can say, maybe it'll strike a nerve in a few people. It's like when my son and I saw you in 2017 on a Patriots tour, this beautiful young man, 21, well-raised. But when he heard you speak, it struck a spark, and it motivated him so hard to study harder and be, he wants to be a pilot. And because when he heard your determination, and that's what we're not hearing anymore. We're not hearing the stories of the good guys. We're worshiping the knuckleheads. And that's just baffling to me. I don't understand that. And that has to start changing as well.
It does. Hey, before we wrap up, Niels, and thank you for digging into those pieces of your life. What you've got so many. Give our listeners Niels' never quit advice. Give me a piece of advice. One that our listeners can take away.
Marcus, some people get a little scared away when you preach faith and you preach old school values. And I draw it back to, I watched my father battle cancer, and he never complained, and he did it stoically. And I watched my beautiful Irish mother do her best to raise us on a fireman's salary. I say to my kids, look up from your phone, look at people's eyes, and look up to your creator above, and be grateful and be thankful. And just what I understood is at the very, very worst, when I would turn it over to God and say, please, God, walk me through this, regardless if I end up with you in heaven or staying here on earth, please walk me through this. And I think what happens is our stubborn pride of we always think we know better as human beings gets in the way. We don't. We're not in control, and that's what I think we just need to do is come back to faith, come back to family, but most of all, be grateful for every day. I thank God for every day I had before cancer. I thought my life was so good, but now I'm like a little kid on Christmas morning. I'm alive for another day, another sunrise, another sunset. So my whole thing is be grateful, be faithful, and just be a good person. And it will all work out for you. Trust me. I've seen it happen for a lot of people. And that's, if I had my way and my say in the world, that's what I'd be preaching.
That's great.
But I really appreciate you guys taking the time. And I'm sorry I hogged the conversation. I just,
that's why we have you on here, buddy.
And,
we want to hear about you and what you've seen and done, and bless you for doing what you're doing now with your podcast and celebrating those lives. And thank you again for coming and spending time with us today.
Well, sir, bless you. Thank you for what you've done for our great country. And thank all of your fellow warriors, because you know what? We would not have our freedom. Guys like you, they're willing to give up every one of their tomorrows so we all have our today. That's so beautiful. All it takes is people just saying, hey, man, thank you. Stop a cop, stop a medic, stop a soldier, a Marine, Navy, a Navy SEAL, or, a sailor or an airman, and just say, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
And they'll know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
Marcus, Andrew, thank you, sirs. And I'd like to send you guys T-shirts. I'll get your information, and be my honor for you to have them. And thanks for what you're doing. And God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless you, brother. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, sirs. Thanks.
Thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. If today's story inspired you, please share it with a friend. 20for20podcast.com is where you can listen to Niels' podcast. It is incredibly produced. The stories that he's sharing are just incredible. It's fascinating. And the fact that he's keeping the memories alive and not letting them fade away and letting people just feel that same feeling that they felt September 12th, that is what it's all about. So make sure you guys support his podcast. If you like our show, make sure you follow us. Make sure to share the episodes with a friend. Make sure you subscribe. All those things that podcasters ask you to do. If you'd like, follow us on social media, teamneverquit.com/social. Marcus, Morgan, and myself, we're all out there doing our thing. Make sure you subscribe anywhere you get your shows. Get out your podcast gear. Show people that you will never quit. We will see you guys next week.